I always wondered why China didn't create an independent, liberated Tibet. That probably would have really hurt Western arguments. I don't know. Maybe because they don't give a fuck about like Western debate perverts online. Like, Mao really, it's shocking to me that Mao really didn't consider what people, even on the ostensible left online, would say like almost 100 years afterwards. You know what I mean? Like, what the fuck are we talking about? Not 100, but like damn near a century later. Like, well, that's crazy. Yeah, I saw this. Hasan is absolutely correct. The destruction of the Tibetan feudalism was in fact carried out not by the Red Army, but by themselves. Don't take it from me, take it from the Tibetans themselves. According to the interview with their mother, Wei Sei's father was very enthusiastic at the beginning of the Cultural Revolution and he loved Mao. Another interviewee states that at the time, belief in the CCP was like belief in the religion. Another interviewee said that he really believed Mao was right, and many others did as well. Another Tibetan who used to be a servant of one of the religious teachers of the Dalai Lama also states that he likes Mao because Mao respects the Dalai Lama and because Mao supports the poor. The first thing he said when he recovered from a hospital operation was long live Chairman Mao. Another Tibetan says that at the time, people believed Mao was a living Buddha and thinks that there are still many Tibetans who, having been liberated by Mao's revolution, have the same feelings for Mao. Like, I think in situations like this, the best thing you can do is like look to even Western outlets that have no interest in writing about the situation on the ground accurately. If you got even Western outlets conducting interviews, if you even have Western outlets saying, well, you know, as much as we hate China, the situation on the ground was significantly worse pre-PLA liberation, okay? Then yeah, what the fuck are we doing? Like, you're fighting this battle that I don't even know whose side you're on at that point. Told His Holiness that it was the truth that the majority of Tibetans supported the CCP because the CCP liberated the serfs. The first interview in Ordinary Tibetan Movement in Lhasa states that Mao helped a lot of people that the world cannot do without people like Mao. It's just like it's not like this happened without it's not like this happened without the help of like Tibetan communists, you know what I mean? The Drepung Monastery on the outskirts of Lhasa was one of the world's largest landowners with 185 manors, 25,000 serfs, 300 pastures, and 16,000 shepherds. High-ranking lamas and secular landowners imposed crushing taxes. I always wondered why China didn't create an independent, liberated Tibet. That probably would have really hurt Western arguments. I don't know. Maybe because they don't give a fuck about like Western debate perverts online. Like, Mao really, it's shocking to me that Mao really didn't consider what people, even on the ostensible left online, would say like almost 100 years afterwards. You know what I mean? Like, what the fuck are we talking about? Not 100, but like damn near a century later. Like, well, that's crazy. And also, the hilarious part about that is that they wouldn't give a shit. They would not give a shit about that at all. Just like they didn't give a shit about the existing Dalai Lama structure that was in place. There was Western involvement, but when has the West ever fucking utilized genuine revolutionary principles and tried to liberate people? If anything, they always work with the landowner class, or rather the most like reactionary elements, and defend them and try to defend their position of power and position of authority, and then use them as the ones who are getting fucked over by the big guy. And the big guy in this situation would have been the PLA. And that, you know, I mean, there are criticisms in this structure, in the current formation. As far as I understand it, what do you say to those who bring up atrocities in the CCP in erasing Tibetan culture, instituting authoritarian policies, forcing thousands to watch the top of the hour, ad breaks that come at every hour? Fuck you. Okay, number one. Number two, there is no top of the hour in Tibet. Tibet has been historically and culturally part of China for hundreds of years in the Qing and other dynasties. Not like the Chinese are foreigners, the Tibetans. Not only that, but as far as I understand, Tibetan literacy improved under Chinese development. It's not like they're not allowed to speak their own language in the way that like a lot of I hear a lot of this from people online, and I have not seen any evidence for the matter. I think they're just like running the same fucking talking points for Tibet that they would anywhere else. It's important to note, but the Imperial King government, the warlords under the Republic, and the KMT all invaded Tibet and were far more destructive and bloodthirsty. The KMT in Taiwan still claims Tibet. Well, they claim Mongolia. It's important to note, yeah, the KMT in Taiwan still claim Tibet, and Hutch blocked me for mildly defending your correct position. Yeah, I know. It's just, like, I think for a lot of people at this point, they're projecting when they say, Hasan, you have no genuine policy opinion, you have no genuine foreign policy analysis skills. You're just simply going America bad. Why is it pure projection? Because I think that they don't actually have any fucking real literacy in the matter, and they just go America good, and assume that anyone that actually dare deviate from that Western standard set by mainstream media turns around and goes, oh, you're fucking tanky. You must be a tanky. I'm going to say you're a tanky. I'm going to say you're a tanky. Or I'm going to say you're a fascist. There's so many people saying I'm a fucking fascist while simultaneously defending a feudal serfdom in the fucking 20th century. What the fuck? No, they're right. You simp for imperialists and capitalists as long as it's China. Online leftism is when you criticize Mao. Wait, what? China 100% has language restrictions on Tibetan. I mean, listen, if you have real genuine literature on this that is not like fucking Radio Free China shit, okay? Radio Free Asia shit, or sponsored by the National Endowment for Democracy, or USA, like CIA-backed outlets that are think tanks, okay? Why is that not a good source? Because why the fuck would that be a good source? Do you think that the Chinese sources are adequate? No. So why the fuck would that be a good source when it's an American State Department cutout? What sources I would trust are people that are not entirely involved with the American State Department, okay? It's not like these are places that these are places where like access is impossible, okay? There are people who go there. There are people who conduct studies. Like, that's crazy. I don't believe the fucking CCP across the board, okay? So why the fuck would I turn around and be like, well, but I do agree when America says stuff about a country, then it must be real and good. There was an article talking about how Tibetan was banned in Tibet, but literally the main picture of it had school to kids with textbooks in Tibetan. People who started to call themselves leftists 3 years ago, Hasan, you simply cannot fathom the extreme nuance required for China bad. And one other thing that people never understand in this process is that there are so many different forces at play. People end up unironically considering other foreign nations a monolith. One perspective that I always try to instill upon you when analyzing foreign countries is by remembering that at the top of the hour there is a 3-minute ad break, and many of those foreign nations like... The other thing I was going to say is this, okay? And I'm going to go back. I'm going to move away from the Tibetan conversation because I covered it earlier today briefly, and I think it's like a silly one that is only, red meat for a lot of debate perverts who are just going to use as many idiotic, cynical, and often just straight up ahistorical, but in a disgusting way where it like minimizes the impact of chattel slavery or minimizes slavery in general. And makes comparisons to like conquistadors or whatever the fuck, which I've seen so many times over. It's just like historically illiterate bullshit. Anyway, regardless, I'm going to move away from that in a second. But the point I wanted to make is this. There are always going to be, for example, nationalist components in a country. Okay, there are going to be religious zealots. Like, think about it like America. Okay? Because a lot of you are so American-brained and so wired that you can't see the world beyond the American goggles, which is why... What? Hasan making me suck capitalism dick so he can eat tendies? Have you considered you're a bad person? What are you talking about? These debate perverts have defended the Waffen-SS, chattel slavery, and feudalism in the same week, not even once. Yeah. Listen. Think about it from the perspective of America. Does America have unique opinions, unique facets of existence, and totally different perspectives? Like when we talk about China, in a lot of instances, primary sources about China are from the Falun Gong. Okay? This would be like understanding how America operates by talking to, and this is not actually a great comparison, but talking to some psychotic cultists, okay? But not just any kind of like MAGA cultists, like some psychotic third worldist cultists, okay? Because then it has to be like diametrically opposed with like American capitalism. Do you think you can develop a better understanding, a decent understanding of what America looks like by talking to, yes, Larishites, for example? You know what I mean? It's like looking to, yes, in some ways, it's like looking at the Chinese Breitbart and being like, well, Americans certainly hate black people and want to fucking wipe them out across the board. And why is this other country, some third nation, not allowing us to do that? Yeah, it's like, or black Israelites. That's a great one. Exactly. But we do that. We do that because, well, they're Chinese and they hate the CCP. They hate communism. So they're our allies in this fight. Okay? You talk about China liberating people, but I've never heard you talk positively about American liberation. I have talked positively about American liberation. What the fuck you mean? I've been literally glazing America's greatest fucking war effort as I talk routinely about World War II since I've been watching Band of Brothers. Anyway, the point is that China is not like North Korea, where information is like completely isolated. Okay? You can fucking just go there, right? That's the other part of it. Like, people still run with like old school, they still have ghost cities actually. Like, they still run with that type of shit. And it's always funny because it's like, it's always funny because I'm like, well, but that's demonstrably false. Like, you can see it with your own fucking eyes. Like, there's American students that study in China. There's Chinese students that are studying in America. It's not like this is some random fucking country that we have no dealings with, that we have facilitated like a global trade embargo on. Okay? Yeah, it's pretty easy to get info in China, lol. People think that Chinese people have no idea what life is like outside, which is so crazy to me because there are hundreds of thousands of people that are traveling between the two countries all the fucking time and engaging in commerce. So much trade. You know, it's fucking ridiculous. When you say I'm struggling to see how an anti-imperialist POV allows for a case where the less bad country invades a bad country, like where's the badness delta that makes it okay? That is why the example I used would be like invading the seceding South during the Civil War, okay? That's the example I use, which is why you got all those fucking all those liberals, panties in a bunch, which is why they try to avoid that fucking example I used in an effort to not talk about slavery or the Dalai Lama or anything like that, so that they can just like talk about some other random irrelevant points of Western imperialism. That's the funniest part about the matter. There you go. I gave you a fucking example of like some certain things are not always imperialism, okay? Do you agree with the Civil War and the outcome? Do you agree with the actions that the North took during the Civil War? Yes or no? If you do, then you should understand what happened with the PLA in Tibet. That's it.